Hey everybody, it's Brad. I got something fun for you today. Today we're going to be digitizing a design from the Game of Thrones TV show. And if you don't watch it yourself, I'm sure that you know somebody in your life that does. They would be delighted if you were to make them a awesome customized polo shirt with this design that we're going to make, or anything else, of course. We're going to be digitizing from a backdrop again. I had some feedback that people wanted a little bit more of that, real digitizing, so to speak, and so I'm happy to oblige. We are going to trace the design by hand off a backdrop, basically. Go ahead and open up your My Floriani today, your Floriani Total Control program, and click on Create a New Design. Okay, so here we are. So to work with a backdrop, we have a button right here. It looks like a little landscape. There's a mountain in the background and some trees and stuff. That's the button that we're going to be using to bring up our backdrop. Now, if you have the CD, because you're in our Floriani Club, then the design's going to be on the CD. Otherwise, what you're going to want to look for on Google image search to get a picture that's just like this, to follow along with me, is just do a search for Stark Family Banner Game of Thrones or something like that, and you'll find plenty of images just like the one that I found to trace off of. So that's for those of you following along at home. Everybody else who has their CD, just go ahead and put your CD in and navigate to where it is. Now, I have my image in my Digitizing Images folder here. Of course, yours will be on your CD or wherever you put it if you download it off the internet. I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And here is my image. This is a huge picture. This is like, let's see, to scale, we've 16 inches wide. That's a little big. So what I want to do is I want to make this pretty small. Actually, I'm going to make it small enough to sew out on, like a little left chest on a shirt. So I want from here to be like around, I don't know, 2.5 inches or so. So I'm gonna, without hitting anything, without clicking anywhere, I'm going to go up to one of the corners here on this, and I'm going to scale this down just using one of the corners. Just click and drag, and you can kind of see it get smaller, and then you can kind of eyeball it. Now I'm going to use my ruler tool over here, because the reason that I'm not just setting it to the size that I want over here is because the image itself is this whole thing. The picture that I'm tracing is just this part of it, so I can't set the size of it over here really. But there's a cool tool that this program has called the ruler tool over here. This is it, ruler tool. I'm going to left click on that and just click and drag from one point here to the other, and this is telling me this is 3 inches from tip to tip. So that's a little tiny bit bigger than I originally wanted, so I click back on my backdrop tool over here and then scale it down just a little bit more. Use my ruler tool again and see where we're at. 2.5, just about, a little over 2.5, that's fine. So I'm pleased with this, this size here. So we're not going to trace it all zoomed out like this though, so we need to go ahead and use our magnifying glass tool. I am going to use the magnifying glass, left click on that, and click and drag a box around the area that I want to zoom in on. Let go, and boom, now we're zoomed way in. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, that'll do for me. What we're going to do here is we're going to have the background part here, the gray of the wolf's head is going to be a fill stitch. Also, the gums here and the teeth are going to be a fill stitch, and we are also going to do all of the detail work. The detail work is all going to be a running stitch. Now, if I was making this way larger, I would make those satin stitches instead of running stitches, but because I want this to be kind of small, and also because we haven't done a whole lot of running stitch work in Floriani Club, we're going to do it all as a running stitch. So if we made this design too much bigger, those lines would end up being probably too thin as a running stitch. But at this size, that's going to be perfect. So let's begin. And we're going to begin by thinking about layering. I'm looking at this wolf's head here, and I'm thinking about how the fur on a real wolf would kind of be going this way, and then like it would kind of go a different way for this part on the neck and the beginning of the body of the wolf here. And even though this is a banner and doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, realistic, I think I'm going to do this in 2 parts. So I'm going to do this part and this part separate. so that they can have different stitch directions. Because they're two parts, we have to think about layering. And if you look, this kind of is on top of this, sort of. So I'm gonna trace this part first so that it sews out first in our sequence, and then I'm gonna trace the head second. All right, so to trace this guy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna trace it directly as a complex fill. So we're not gonna use the artwork tool, we're gonna use the complex fill tool. So I'm gonna left click on complex fill. My cursor is gonna turn into a crosshair, okay? And I'm gonna just go ahead and start tracing this. And the way that I'm gonna trace this, I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna stick to the gray part here and not trace all the way to the outside of this outline. My outline is gonna be thinner than the outline in the picture. So that's gonna be a little tricky when we go to do our black outline, but just follow along with me. I'm gonna start right here. You're gonna left click once, and then the next place you click will be a straight line from there. And you're going to have to cut across some of the detail. Okay, so see how I just cut right across here? You don't follow this out. We're going to stay pretty close to where the gray is. And when we have to jump across the black, we will, but we don't just, like, you know, trace around. We don't, you know, have to, like, break it up into little pieces. You know, I don't have to do each one of these. That would take forever and be a nightmare. So see how I'm just kind of following along the edge of the gray, and when I don't have gray to trace, I just kind of imagine that it's there. See how I just did that? I'm like imagining the curve of the gray, sort of. Alright, and so anyway, we keep on going here. And then I actually want to create a little bit of overlap here. So I'm going to not follow this part of it at all. The points are going to be, these points here, I mean, the pointy part of this, is actually going to be traced in from our top layer. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap here, but you know what? A little layer of overlap never hurt anybody. You know, you want to avoid having layer upon layer upon layer, but I'm of the mind to say that two fills on top of one another aren't going to hurt anybody. So we just keep on going around this shape till we get to the end, and we're at the end. So to generate this, we're going to right click, boom. Okay, we've right clicked, and now we've got our fill is in here. Of course, it's not gray, it's blue, but that's okay. We're going to change that. So we've still got our what you call this, complex fill tool selected. We're going to go up to the select tool, which will actually select this area that we've just done. And we're going to make this color, instead of blue, we're going to make this color gray. So we're going to go down and change our number one color to a gray. That one will work. And hit OK. Okay, so this is gray now. And we need to change the stitch direction also. Right now the stitches are going side to side like this. And I want them to be going this way. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go up to the shape tool, which is this third one from the top on our left-hand toolbar. We're going to click on the shape tool, and you see this line. It's got two black dots here and here, and then there's a yellow line going through. We're going to change this so that it's pointing this way. Okay, and what that's going to do is make my stitches go this way. Okay, so my stitches are going down now. All right, so now my stitch direction's going like this. Now we're going to trace the next part, the head. So we're going to start the head. I'm going to go back up to my tool here, the, what you call it, complex fill tool. And now I actually have a little bit here where I didn't, you know, I really probably should have done up the top part of this. That's all right. We're going to just make sure that we have a little bit of overlap here as we do this. And we need this. Here, let me zoom in a bit here. All right, you see where this doesn't quite meet the gray up here? You know what? That might be okay, because we're going to have the detail in there. We're going to have the detail in there when we do the running stitch, and that'll close up that little bit of a gap. Okay, forget I said anything. So let me zoom back into a level I want to be at. Zoom in on just the head here. All right, back to my complex fill, and off we go. Just going to trace the gray again. And remember, I said I was going to have a little bit of overlap here, and that's okay. We want to have this overlap. This is by design. Oh, if you mess up your clicking, probably should have said this earlier, but you hit the backspace key to go back. Anybody who didn't watch the last video. But also remember, you don't have to be perfect either. You know, nobody's going to be looking at the original artwork and comparing it directly to your work. It's just not going to happen. And if it does, then, well, whoever's doing that is kind of a jerk. So we're just following along this curve here. Speaking of curves, if you hold down the control key, it'll make the line curved. I really, honestly, rarely do that because I find that the amount of curve that I get just kind of just from the clicking is fine when you're dealing with stitches, because the stitches are really just straight lines anyway. They don't really curve perfectly in a perfect world even. So, and here, note that I'm just ignoring the detail that I'm crossing over. Just pretend it's not there. Okay, and we're just going under here. You do up to this little tuft of hair. We're almost back to the beginning now. There we go. Okay, right click to generate it. Here we go. And again, we're going to change this stitch direction here. Right now it's going this way. I want to have it kind of going sweeping back a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go back to the shape tool again and just move the stitch direction to be going this way. And go ahead and hit the select tool. That'll generate it. And there we go. So I can put this in 3D to see what it's going to look like here. All right, so we've got our two contrasting directions, one going down, one going across. It kind of gives a little bit of dimensionality to it, I think. So yeah. All right, I'm going to turn the 3D off so we can actually see what we're doing, and zoom back in on my head here. So the next thing I'm going to trace is, let's see. Let's do the gums, and then the teeth and the eye. I'm going to have the teeth and the eye the same color. And the gums, you know, I've seen other versions of this where the gums are pinkish, so I'm going to make the gums pinkish. I'm going to do those first. Back up to our complex fill tool, and we're going to just click around the gum line. Okay, click and, oop, messed up, hit the backspace key. Okay, got that. Right click to generate it. Now this came in gray because I forgot to change my color first, but that's okay. We're going to change our color down here. We're going to make this, I'm going to right click on this red number 2 down here. That has made this red, and now we're going to change this red to a lighter pink and choose OK. Alright, so now we've got the pink gums in there, and now we're going to do the teeth. And the way we're going to do the teeth, we're not actually going to just trace each tooth. That would be kind of cumbersome. I'm going to show you a trick here. We're going to go in and just trace them like this. We're going to trace the bottom line of the teeth. Okay, so the pointy part of the teeth. Okay, and then we're going to cut across the top. Okay, right click. Oh, of course I forgot to change my color. Well, I want this to be white, so we're going to take this, we're going to choose the next color. We'll right click on the green to set the color as color 3, and then we'll change this to white. Off-white, well, whatever. Okay, so now we've got our teeth. Put in 3D. Right, yeah, see, not too bad. And then we're going to do the bottom teeth as well. The same way, we're going to do the bottom teeth. So back up to my complex fill tool, and we're going to do the pointy part of the teeth. Okay, and oh, forgot to tell it what color. I always forget to do the colors. I'm just not used to the way that this does the colors. So right click on your white down here. So we've got the upper teeth, the lower teeth, and the gums are done. And now we just need the eye, and we want the eye to be the same color as the teeth, which is going to be white. So back to complex fill. And the default stitch direction is fine for that. Make it 3D. Take a look at what we got. Just a little tiny bit of white, and that's all we wanted there. Okay, cool. So we've got our teeth, our gums, and our gray background. All that's left is to do all this detail work. Okay, so I'm going to start. Let me zoom out just a tiny bit so that I can see the whole thing at once. All right, now remember, we're not following the outside edge of this because it's going to be too far away if we do that. We're going to follow right where I clicked on my gray. So I'm kind of looking at the edge of my stitching a little bit here to make sure that I get this exactly how I want it. But you don't have to worry about being too terribly precise with this because this is a pretty small design. It's going to sew out, and you're not going to be able to see really ridiculous amounts of detail. So you know, keep that in mind when you're doing this. Don't like kill yourself to make it exactly perfect. So this time we're going to be using a run stitch here. Okay, so we're going to choose the run, input run path, and just go ahead and start. I'm gonna start up here. It's kind of doesn't really matter where you start that much, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to just click, and remember what this is going to be is just a straight line. On the inside part, I want to kind of stay in the middle, and I'm clicking too much. I gotta remember not to click too much. Remember, each click is forcing a stitch in there. Everywhere that you click is going to be at least one stitch. So you want to try not to click too close together. Like what you don't want to do is this. Okay? That's too many clicks. So try to keep them spaced fairly evenly. So this part is going to be kind of time consuming here. And essentially I'm just going to draw a line everywhere that there is a line in here, and what you want to do is hide your movements by going back over yourself. You can go back over yourself 3-4 times and it's okay. I mean, you want to do it kind of limit it, you know, you don't want to abuse it, but if you need to, I'm clicking too much again. It's really hard not to. So just do your best not to click too much. I know you want to get as much detail out of it as you can, but remember, this is a pretty small design. And these are going to be really small stitches in here, and I know I'm pathing this kind of crazy. Anybody who's watching this that you're good at digitizing a running stitch, you're going to be like, Brad, what are you doing? But you know what? Make your own video if you do it better. So we're keep on going here. The important thing is that I want this all to be one solid line. Okay, I don't want this to like, that's too far. I don't want this to have any jumps when it's doing the outline. So that's why I'm running over myself so many times. And it's going to be fine. Just want to make sure you stay, when you're running over yourself, stay more or less right where you had clicked. Oh, a little too far outside the line there. Remember, we stuck to the inside edge of that black when we traced this. So that's where you want this outline to be. Clicking, clicking, clicking. This is a whole lot of clicks. But that's pretty much what digitizing by hand is just tracing by clicking a whole lot of times. Alright, so here we go. Keeping going around here. Following the... I don't know what these are supposed to be. Scales? Is it like a dragon dire wolf? I don't know. I never really understood what this pattern is here on this, but if you follow the show, you know pretty much anybody who would be able to tell you is probably dead. Okay, so we're just going around. Okay, going around this one. I want to actually, you know what? I kind of would have rather have had these come to more sharp points now that I'm looking at it with a critical eye. That's alright though. It's going to be pretty good. When you're doing this, you can work as hard as you want to get the amount of detail in. You know, and stop and start, and just in the interest of not spending 3 years making this video, I'm not going to do that. if I was really doing this for myself, like, I would probably be just as kind of anal about it as most people are when they're making stuff. You know, I'll spend hours getting it just right, and then realize later that I could have just done it like this and it would look exactly the same because the images or the design is so small. So see how I'm thickening up these parts here by putting more passes, so to speak, in? You can do that to thicken up a spot. Like right here. There we go. Okay. And then we bring this back down here. Get the end of the nose. And then we're going to take a little artistic license and just jump up into this. Even though there's a gap there in the picture, I don't care. I want as few times for this to stop as possible. Alright, now we're going to go in here, and we need to have a really thick line here around the gum because there's a gap there. And then we're going to go around the teeth. And I'm clicking too much. I can't help myself. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, and then down here. And of course we have to do the lower part of the mouth here. And the teeth. I'm just going to do one straight shot across there and back. That was ugly. Hold on. Let me go back. Backspace, backspace, backspace. Going too fast there, Brad. And we're almost back to where we started from. Cool. Okay. So, that is the majority of our detail there. Woo. My hand hurts after doing all that. So, we're going to right-click to generate. Boom. Okay. It's the wrong color, of course. That's alright. We're going to go ahead and see. We're going to set it to this number 4 color and change that color to black. Black, where are you? There we go. Alright, so now that's black. And now we want to do the, here, let's look at it in 3D. There we go. Things always look terrible on the computer, basically. You generally, when you digitize something on the computer, it's gonna look bad. You just have to kind of sew it out, kind of. Although, really, honestly, I could have done a lot better in here. Yeah. Well, we'll see what it looks like when I sew it out. Alright, so turn 3D off. Now we're going to do this part here too. Alright, and I'm just going to jump right into here. Sometimes it's easier to just eliminate a gap by doing that. There we go. Make this one black. Make it a run stitch. Oh, it's already a run stitch. Duh. Oh, you know what? I did this one as artwork on accident somehow. If you do that, I think I must have clicked my pen tool just out of habit. Right-click on it and convert it to a run, and then it'll be a run stitch. All right, so these last two, we're going to make these a double run so that they run over each other twice. You go up to your properties and change it to 2-ply. Hit apply. And what that does is make sure that any given spot is going to have at least 2 running stitches going over it, which is going to make it so that our you know, that the lines are all pretty thick. Alright, so we're going to turn off our backdrop tool. Let's see, turn off the backdrop. I forget how to do that. We want to hide this backdrop though so that we can see just our design. Maybe if I adjust the darkness all the way to light. There we go, that's pretty good. Alright, so there's our design, and now we can see that there's a little bit of a gap here, a little bit of a gap over here. We can fix that using our shape tool. So I'm going to go in and grab this fill here and use my shape tool. And I grabbed it by going into the sequence tool and grabbing the second one of the complex fills. I'm going to use my shape tool, and I'm just going to pull some of these dots in. And then you right click to generate it. See how that pulls them in? There we go. Much better. And then down here we've got Couple of problems here. You just pull these points and you can kind of reshape it. See how that's filled that back in? See? And that's one reason you don't want to click too many times here either, because it keeps, bring this up a little bit. It makes it easier to pull things in when there's not a bajillion stitches to click on. Let's see if we can't do anything with this. Let's see right here where it doesn't quite overlap. There we go. So you could go in and pull in any spots that aren't perfect. Like I could right here where it doesn't quite overlap. I could go and pull those together. Over here where it's not quite perfect, could go in and again grab these points here so that there's not this silly gap here anymore. See how that, well, I missed a spot on it, but basically I would just go in and pull that stitching together. But at any rate, I just take this and sew it out and see what we get, and I'm gonna put a picture up of what this looks like when it actually is sewn out, so that you can see the difference between what it looks like on the screen and what it looks like when you sew it out. So that's it for digitizing from a backdrop. Just go ahead and hit File, Save to Sew, tell it what kind of fabric and that you digitized it. I'm going to sew this out on, what is that I have? It's like, not fleece. It's felt is what you call it. Do I have felt on here? No, it's kind of like, it's not really like fleece. It's kind of like flannel. We'll call it flannel. I digitized, solid design, closed design. Yes, I'm going to hoop the fabric. Hit next, next, finish, and I'm going to save it as Stark, and save it as a PES because it's I'm using a Baby Lock machine. Hit save. Make sure you save this as a working file too, and I'm going to go sew it out, and I'll leave the picture up at the end of this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.